Are we in the midst of a fake stock market crash? There's been multiple times in history where we have seen this sentiment in the market towards a pullback like this, where we have been convinced through the media that there is recession scares, that recession is going to happen and there is some big crash coming along the way, and we happen to always pull back by about 6 to 7%. So we do see these times in history where we have these pullbacks of about 6 to 7%, where at those times we actually do have recession scares going on. You'll notice back here in August of 2019, we actually saw a 6.8% drop where there were serious fears going on in the market, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. And then we have this point here, we were down about 6%, right? And we had fears that inflation was overall going to take over. So we had inflation scares going on here that could cause a crash. And then you notice every single time though, we end up going higher. And then as of this moment, we're down about 6.5%. And we have fears that we are going into recession. But I'm going to show you some stuff going into these charts ahead, just showing you what was going on at these times. Well, first of all, at these times, we know based on the charts that there was some overall fear, right? We see these moments where we have a very high put to call ratio. Now, September of 2021, we had a little bit lower one, but still up towards a 1.2 put to call ratio. As you can see in the past, going all the way back to August of 2019, we actually saw multiple readings at 1.88. So a lot of readings of people going very heavily into puts. And then what do we have as of this week? Well, technically, just as of Friday alone, we actually see a put call ratio of about a high of about 1.474. Okay, so we do have that fear, that over exaggeration, that move towards puts that has happened at these key moments with these key pullbacks. As we showed you here, these pullbacks all led to positivity over time, right? Positivity. It really was a fake stock market pullback. And if you want to see the overall sentiment of what was going on in the news around those times, well, we can just go back and ask what was happening during 2019 and what were people scared of. People were concerned with the sustainability of global economic growth, particularly in Europe, and then interest rates. So we can kind of connect with that. The Federal Reserve was considering interest rate cuts, which could indicate economic weakness. And doesn't that sound familiar to right now? But just notice that when this stuff was happening, this was being pumped out in the media, and we actually went higher. Now in 2021, a little bit of a different story, but still another way for the media to tell you rising inflation, while not yet a major concern. There were early signs of inflationary pressures building up. So this was a time where inflation was really on people's mind and people were reacting to that, selling off in the market. But there are some key things to understand about what was going on in these areas. And what we're going to do is show you how in the nearest price action, or at least some near price action, we can show you how the dollar has been dropping, hinting that there was some insider buying. And we're going to show you that behavior of the dollar real quick, just showing you these points that we've come up with here since July 2023. Okay, now we're going to actually go all the way back to this point here to start. Okay, so we're going to start in March of 2023, and you'll just notice how the dollar makes a high here, the market goes and makes another low, but the dollar actually starts to subside. The dollar starts to come down, hinting that there may be some insider buying. What happens shortly after that? Well, just after just a couple of weeks, right? We sell down to a lower point while the dollar says, hey, I'm coming down, possibly hinting some insider buying. That insider buying takes over, and we see that bottom come in, and the SPY actually heads higher. SPY is on the right, dollar's on the left, just so you're aware. Now, as we go throughout the dollar going up and down here, we hit this point right here where we find some kind of top for some kind of consolidation. Now, what was happening with the dollar in this area? Well, at this point, the dollar was actually finding a bottom and starting to head up. You see this line, it was starting to head up. And then what was happening? Well, the market went up for just a couple more weeks, and then we started to pull back. So this right here was a hint that the insiders actually were selling in this area for a couple of weeks. And when that actually hit the tape or took over, well, we saw a drop in the market, okay? But once we did drop in the market and everyone said, oh no, it's going to continue, we're still going down, we noticed that the SPY goes to a lower level, right? The SPY goes to a lower level, but the dollar actually already made its high and started to come down, hinting that there was some insider buying. And we're just going through this to really understand how this is working in the nearest time, right? In the past couple of years here. So as we move forward, now we see a moment here. And this is what we've been using on our channel and our live videos to really talk about how there could be some insider buying. So we noticed that the dollar was actually bottoming out and going higher for a couple of weeks here, while the market was actually topping out, going higher with the dollar going higher. That just tells me, hey, maybe there were some insiders selling for a couple of weeks here, and then that ultimately led to some kind of drop. Now, in this price action up here, what did we have? Well, we had a moment where the dollar, hey, it was heading up for a little bit, right? And then it started to come down, okay? So that's key to understand with this area here. The dollar was heading up while the stock market continued to head up, and then we see that selling come in, but right when we see that selling come in, we're actually noticing that this is coming down and the dollar is coming down at the same time very rapidly. I want to point that out. This is very rapid at this point. The point that we're at right now, the dollar is coming down dramatically as of right now, and that could hint to some possible insider buying. And when that does actually take over and hit the tape, maybe we actually see the SPY bottom out and make that next move higher, doing one of these moments like in the past where it was a fake crash overall. So I want to pay attention to these things. Obviously, I know that the stock market can go in either way at any moment. We could have more work to be done. You notice back in July of 2019, we saw that PCC ratio hit this multiple times. And if we go over into the SPY here, we'll notice that there are multiple points where we kind of touch those lows. So we could see a few weeks of volatility that overall need to create a stronger base. So now we're going to go over into the stock market analysis. And if you wanted to actually look at what is going on in the news as of this drop right here, well, the stock market today, what are we overall seeing here from CNBC? Stocks fell sharply on Friday as much weaker than expected jobs report for July ignites worries that the economy could be falling into recession. It reminds us a lot of something that was being said back in August of 2019, I get my dates wrong. Yeah, back in August of 2019. Okay, so back in August of 2019, we were seeing the same type of narrative. And then we actually ended up going higher over time. So we're seeing that narrative come in at almost the same time, right? We're hitting August right now. We're in August right now. And we're seeing almost the same exact thing as back in 2019, August 2019. So I wanted to point that out to you guys today, point out a lot of the things that are going on. And then now we can look at if this is a bottom, which we do see some signals here. So make sure you are subscribed so that you can see the shorter time frames. We're going to update those daily expected moves, the weekly expected moves. These are the numbers that are priced in from the options market. If you want the monthly expected move for August that is priced into the market, well, that's going to be these thick yellow lines here, 570, 379 to the upside, and we do have 527.83 to the downside. Okay, so this is a 68% zone. This is where the options market expects the SPY to either go to a low or a high during the month of August. And where are we right now? So not only did I just show you a few reasons why this could overall just be a fishy move that might end up bottoming out and we actually go to new all-time highs, is the monthly. We're down by the monthly expected move 2 days into the month. We're right there. So we've already come down to that level 2 days into the month. So we might have some work to do to make a stronger base here, but overall, how would this play out if this is going to be some kind of fake stock market crash that actually leads to going higher? And I think the first thing we need to talk about is the psychology behind it. Okay, this is justified. This is very justified. And volatility, we're going to talk about that in a moment because a 60% move in volatility should cause this to go down more than 2.5% or 3%. It should be a lot higher than that. So what I overall was saying, though, is this is justifiable. Like, this makes total sense. The data that we just received was unemployment. Unemployment just went up to 4.3%. And a lot of people are talking about the SOM rule. Okay, now we've mentioned this a few times on the live stream. We've brought up the monthly charts here and just showed you what that SOM rule really means. And I know it's a 3-month, but overall what you need to know is the lowest point, okay, in the last 12 months is what you want to pay attention to first, about 3.5% here, right? 3.5%. Okay, so the SOM rule says once we are up to about 4%, that is a early signal that we are going into recession. Well, guess what? We actually hit 4% back in May of 2024. And now with this reading, we are at 4.3%. So you're not only up by 0.5, you're actually up by 8, and this thing is starting to scale up. So this is why on my channel everyone wants to talk about CPI crashing the market and this and that crashing the market and rates crashing the market. At the end of the day, the thing you need to be paying attention to, and we've said this over the past few months, is always unemployment. And I've really tried to hit home with that a lot lately, because this is what you really need to be paying attention to. And look what happens after unemployment comes out compared to the CPI. Every time we get a bad CPI reading, the market ends up going higher over the next 3 to 6 months. That is something to be to understand. But notice that once unemployment goes up in a higher reading, we start to see a downturn. And now we need to see if we're going to actually head higher over time. So we're going to talk about the daily scale here. Just really talk about this and see if we're actually going to hit those new highs. So how would we overall do that, and how would I see it playing out over the next maybe couple of months, or maybe just going into mid-September? So I think mid-September to October are going to be the times to really pay attention, and we could see something set up here. I believe we are going to go through a time kind of like this one over here, where you notice that we are at higher levels. Okay, we see this curl down, we curl back up, and then we see some positivity for quite some time. So I think we're going to see another curl up of this MACD right here, confirming some kind of bottom very soon after we make some of those reversal signals. Remember to subscribe so we can come in for the shorter time frames, because there is some time left to create that stronger base, and I think we can see how that would be formed. But as that dollar is dropping, we could V-shape from this area. You know, this could continue, but we also need to be aware of the fact that this could V-shape in this area with the dollar dropping off that hard if it means there is some insider buying. So how would this play out into the future if we are actually going to see another upward move? Well, obviously nothing goes up in a straight line. I want to say that first, but this is overall how I would see it playing out. We see some kind of move and all those scares kind of come out of the market. We kind of make a move past the level of the previous high, and then we're able to turn down and maybe use that topping area as some kind of way to use it as support to head higher into the future. And we actually see another upward move going up into September, possibly extending into October. That's truly how I see it playing out. And down here on the MACD, what would that set up for as well? I think we get a high point of that MACD coming down, and maybe we actually set up a triple divergence across the way. I think we actually do get this triple divergence, so I will be paying attention to way over here. And I want you guys to be aware of this and try to think into the future a little bit if we see a bottom here, because this is what could really be playing out. They want to convince people, the psychology behind it is they want to convince you that the scares are gone, that this is overall something that you shouldn't be worried about. And we see that all the time with data. Data, for a minute, everyone's scared of it, and then they just kind of let the stock market go higher and everyone forgets about it. And then later on, the next piece of data comes out maybe in 2 to 3 months, and boom, unemployment has risen again, and that is what you really want to pay attention to. But this is overall how I would see this playing out for the SPY. Now I just overall wanted to go over the fact that this still looks fishy. I just want to show you how this is overall a fishy kind of move, is just because, one, you're still by the center line, so you can curl up and go positive very easily. So if we just saw a couple days of positivity, you would most likely cross on this MACD, and you would see that simple swing trade getting above these moving averages to the upside. All right, so we want to pay attention to that. The other thing that was kind of fishy to me was volatility. Volatility did see this breakout going up by about, I think it was 60% at some point. And isn't it kind of strange? Like just common sense here is what I'm overall getting at with this. Common sense here. If the volatility went up by 60%, wouldn't that mean we might need a little bit more than, say, I don't know, 2.5% down? I mean, wouldn't that make a little bit more sense? But once we start to think of the fact that the dollar was actually going down dramatically on that day, that could mean that insiders were actually holding that market up. That could mean that insiders are buying in this area. And I want you to be aware of that going into Monday as we get into those shorter time frames. So as we look over at volatility, there's a few things to mention over here. The fact that we were breaking out of some resistance, some trend lines here, breaking out of some wedging, again, breaking out of a main wedge really. And we're noticing that it falls down, right? It closes below it. It starts to curl back down. We're going to go over the shorter time frames for this on Sunday, so make sure you're subscribed. But you notice that we wicked out and we were able to come down. So what we're overall going to look for here is a period of time where this MACD can cross. So how we really would know if we're going to see some kind of short squeeze as that PCC is very high is The confirmation of that most likely is if this MACD is crossing down into negative, or crossing down, right? The first indication will be, is this crossing down on the MACD? The second indication is, are we going to continue that by curling down below this 200? The 50 was about to cross the 200, so that is a major, major crash signal on the daily scale. If you don't know that, when the 50 crosses the 200, if you can hold above that, that's a bad sign. So we have to pay attention to that going forward. If we're not going to go to all-time highs, we see some kind of reaction down to the 200, and then we're able to use the 50 and the 200 as support, and the 50 can hold that. That is an actual crash signal, and this might be the crash right now. But that insider buying, the wick from the VIX, is kind of telling me something a little bit different. So what we're going to do now is the SPY and the Qs. I just wanted to show how a lot of these are within some kind of pullback territory that we've been in a few times in the past. Now, it doesn't mean that the work is overall done. We are overall in the Qs in a channel. This could extend for some time and then go into the future, right? We want to be open to many, many scenarios here. But at this level down here, we are seeing some reversal signals that we'll talk about on Sunday. So let's click through and look at Apple. Apple's still on the daily in a positive trend. Yes, it looks a little bit flaggy. Yes, we got the rejection at our line of 225.84. Yes, this does look a little bit flaggy in here, but overall the MACD is still positive. So in order for me to say that we're really crashing and Apple's dead, we're going to have to go into a negative trend. We're going to have to go into a negative trend and see that downward trend continue over time. And that is something to pay attention to with Apple. The fact that it is positive, and Apple fishy behavior. If the stock market is overall crashing, then why was Apple green on Friday? A little bit strange for Apple to be holding that up on Friday, so we'll pay attention to that going forward. But if this MACD crosses up, we can see another higher move, and watch out for some kind of divergence for Apple. But really just want you to see this. I want you to pay attention to the fact that Apple is in positive territory. Tesla is in positive territory, right? We have Tesla in positive territory, actually showing you that reversal signal right now. Now in the shorter time frames, it looks like Tesla may need to make a very short-term stronger base, and then we could see a move. But overall, this is just what you want to see from swing trading. Some kind of pullback that leads to a lower price point, goes and tests that 200, and then if you can curl up and get above these moving averages, you might see another big move from Tesla. I don't want you to be thinking like, hey, this has to crash down into oblivion, when we're still positive as of right now, and that can just curl up into positive territory. Now, as we get into things like Amazon, the story starts to get a little bit worse, but you're noticing, look at this wick up. We do not want to close below that 166.12. You notice that 166.12 was the key area we pointed out way back in these levels, and it's becoming important again as we are not able to close below it. So now, the difference with Amazon is, do you really think that this has a chance? If it extends for some time, it can go to a new all-time high. But if we're going to just see one more big pump and then see that drop off, actually a lower high is a little bit more likely for Amazon. As you are deeper into negative territory for the MACD, it's a little bit more likely to see some kind of big pop and drop, if that pop can lead you to getting overbought. So we'll pay attention to this. This could be some kind of gap fill, some kind of extension, maybe fill a couple of gaps, and then we'll see if there's weakness in this overall move for Amazon. But I just wanted to point out to you the fact that Amazon is negative. It does have a little bit more probability of creating some kind of lower high, but I just want you to notice how it is still close enough that if it saw a couple days of positivity, a couple big days of positivity, that fear kind of goes out of the market with those recession scares, we actually could see another extended move higher. Now the shorter time frames look like trash for this, so Amazon's going to be a difficult one, but one that looks pretty good is Nvidia. I actually really like the look of Nvidia at these lows. I talked about it live on the shorter time frames, so we'll talk about it again on Sunday and give you guys those weekly expected moves for every stock we cover on this channel. Nvidia is included on that. Every stock that we're going to talk about today is going to be included in that. But Nvidia still within range of a positive move. Now it is negative, so we have to be open to the fact that it could make some kind of lower high. Maybe that is going to be with this trend line, but if we're able to break through that, use that as support, and maybe actually head higher, use that 125 and use this trend line as some support, well, we actually could see another extended move, and this might extend forward into that earnings play. We'll find out what happens with the earnings. We'll have to, pay attention to that, as it is a 50-50 flip. If you need to learn about earnings, go to my channel, click click on videos and look for where we talk about, how to play earnings just a few days ago, a few videos back, because it really will help you in seeing how I treat earnings and what I do with my positions around earnings and how I overall go into earnings with my mentality, as it is a 50-50 flip. And I think it's a very helpful video that not a lot of people were able to see, so I encourage you to watch that if you have some free time this weekend. But Nvidia showing some signals down here. If this just crosses up, you have the ability to go positive with just a few days of buying, and if that is able to happen, and it is very strong, you can definitely see a new all-time high here for Nvidia in the next few months. So we'll pay attention to this, see if that's able to get above these moving averages, because that's just going to be a simple swing trade after a pullback. And we've seen that multiple times. As it dips into negative territory, we recover. But you notice this time we are a little closer to positive. This time over here, we're a little bit more negative. So we have to say, hey, we have to be open to a lower high, and hopefully that would maybe actually lead into earnings. We'll see if there's weakness in the overall move, but we always know earnings is a 50-50 flip. Nvidia actually showing some basing out signals here to pay attention to. Now we get into AMD. AMD has seen some negativity for quite some time, right? AMD has seen a lot of negativity for quite some time. And isn't it funny that AMD actually gets some good earnings that really helps out Nvidia, but causes AMD to really crash down even further. So interesting that AMD earnings actually is more positivity for Nvidia than AMD at this point. But you can see that MACD, we're very low. We're very low into negative territory. We're down at levels we've been at before. And you notice how we struggle to really get that to go to a new all-time high, because it's very hard to go back into a very positive trend when you're down this far on the MACD. It takes a lot of work to go make that big move and then see that curvature, right? See that go into a positive trend on the daily scale. It takes a lot of time. So if we're going to see anything bad happen or any weakness, well, that might lead into, maybe it leads into Nvidia earnings. So we'll pay attention around Nvidia earnings and see what the reaction is. But you can see here that this is overall a move that could take you to a higher level. We could test that 200. We could do some stuff. But overall, the reason AMD might not be the best trade setup is because it's below the 200. When you look at these other stocks like Apple, I think even Tesla, I think it's Nvidia, all of those ones, they're above the 200 still. So they're able to maybe see a stronger move is overall what I'm getting at. AMD, I don't think this thing will see that strong of a move. I don't think it will go to a new all-time high unless you see something crazy, but I just don't think it's in the cards. I think they will use things like Nvidia and Apple, the bigger stocks, to pump the market higher. Looking over at Meta, we'll just notice that what were people asking me right here? Oh, we're falling down. Where could we fall to? Well, let's go look at our point, 453.08. 453.08 is something that we've used in the past, right? It's a very key level. We tried to gap below and we take it back pretty strong, consolidate right above it, and we're able to see a big move for Meta. Actually, Meta seeing a good reaction from the earnings and not able to completely crash down. So if this is an actual crash scenario, wouldn't you expect Meta to crash down? Now, we could see more price action overall in the shorter time frames. One of the topics is we need more price action to see if this is actually going to be a stronger base. So we're going to talk about that on Sunday. But overall, you would say, hey, I have a MACD crossing up into positive territory. I have a not so good bar, right? A negative bar when you're getting that cross isn't necessarily the best sign. We want to see a green bar, some kind of positive bar, some kind of positive close above these moving averages. I know this is still positive compared to what it was before earnings, but overall, I would like to see a positive bar to really confirm that we're going to take this momentum and go into positive territory. But isn't it interesting that as the media talks about crash and as the recession scares are coming in, and we've probably been in recession for like years now, by the way, the MACD here for Meta actually curling up, telling you, hey, this has a chance for a positive move in positive territory if it can cross that center line. So really pay attention to Meta, because I think that this positivity could continue here for Meta since the earnings, and we'll pay attention to that for you. Now, looking over at something a little bit different, we can go look at AMC and GME. Now, these things are going to be very key going forward in the next couple of months, just because we do have some earnings coming out for GameStop and AMC this week, for GameStop this week. We already got the AMC earnings. That actually was some good restructuring of the debt. That was seen as good news. You notice that overall was halted, and then we see the upside move, and they're immediately ready to fight it as it's about to break out of that unexpected area. That unexpected area for this week was 588. Did we get close to breaking through that? We actually did, and I think this is the signal that people need to pay attention to. If we can close above the 200, because you notice every time that we try to close above the 200, we see these wicks. That's where the fight really begins. So if you really want to see AMC see a good move, you need this MACD to curl up into positive territory. You need this green bar above that 200 to be able to close in these areas, and then you'll have a good shot to close above an unexpected level that they're not pricing in with the options market. It will be an unexpected thing that overall causes this. If they expect it, I would expect a fight. So the fact that GME earnings is coming out this week is very expected. So I would be careful thinking that GME earnings is going to be an overall really bullish thing. Doesn't mean it can't if they do something unexpected, if there's some unexpected buying. That is what can send you into a gamma squeeze. We are going to give you that updated level for this week, give you that unexpected area that they are paying attention to. They were paying attention to it last week. It literally touched it to a T, and now they were fighting it as it was about to break above the 200. So as we get tighter and tighter in here, we get closer and closer to seeing a big move in one direction. And we're all, people who are holding this are probably hoping, hey, that closes above the 200, we see something big. You being a part of this community here will have a level to pay attention to and know if we break out of there, hey, good probability that you're going to see something crazy. We're going to update this for you on Sunday night's video. GameStop, though, seeing some downward pressure. Now, the difference between GameStop and AMC at this point is GameStop is able to go negative. Now, there hasn't been a lot of news coming out for GameStop, so I think that's why you're overall not seeing more institutional buying that's going to cause the stock to actually go up. Just remember that institutional buying will affect the stock more than retail buying. Retail buying most likely just doesn't hit the tape, and they continue to sell off the stock. That's perfectly fine, but you just want to pay attention to the same signals. Why is this overall still a good thing? Hey, you're above the 200, but you're starting to die out here. So you really need a time where that can curl up, and maybe earnings can give you that here in a few weeks. So we'll pay attention to that. We have pretty much the whole month of August before that comes out. I think I said this week for GameStop earnings, but I guess it's been just a blip in my brain. But September 4th is actually when that's going to come out. So we could see a lot of wonky price action before September 4th and see if that's able to go up. See if we see some kind of reaction, because there are some signals down here that look like you could see a reaction, and then we'll have to see what happens with that earnings over time. But as of right now, you have to say that GameStop is negative in negative territory. That's not a good thing. If you want to see a positive thing, you need that to curl up on this MACD. That is the very basic thing on the macro scale. Macro scale being, daily is probably the shortest time frame on the macro scale, but the daily here needs to turn back up. You need to confirm that upward momentum. You notice that in the past, we confirm upward momentum here on the daily. What do we see? A pretty solid move. We confirm momentum on the daily. What do we see? A pretty positive move there the next day. And then what do we see back here? Well, we crossed up here. We went positive right here. After we go positive, we consolidate, and you see a big move. So you're looking for that daily MACD to cross up, and that is going to be a pretty solid signal there for GME to see some upside. So I'd pay attention to that. Now, the last thing I really just want to talk about, yields dropping off dramatically here. So we did hear Jerome Powell talking about, he was asked a few questions. He was asked about unemployment. He was asked about other things, but he also was asked a question about as soon as August. And he kind of was stuttering his words and fumbling his words. But overall, at the end of the day, what did he say? He said, well, by August, if we see decent enough data, we could see ourselves cutting. So there is a chance that come August, we actually do see that cut come in, or at least the announcement of a cut in September, and then that could cause that euphoria. Remember, these are getting very, very close to uninverting, and when they do uninvert, initially it can be seen as good news. We'll find out. Sometimes it's reacting a little quicker based on what the market is doing right now. Sometimes we react a little quicker, but as we get uninverted, sometimes you can buy yourself 6 to 18 months of positivity. So we'll see if that is able to happen over the next few months, and pay attention to these signals very closely if this is going to be an overall extended upward move. So overall, I think that's what I got for you. I just wanted to show you how there was possible insider buying, and this overall move down kind of looks to me like it could be a fake crash, and we actually could end up going higher. And that's the best part about this channel, is we try to tell you how to trade like water, right? We overall say don't get think you're right all the time. This is something that can cause people to get very, very bearish, and all we need to do is look at the signals. If things are starting to curl up, then we know, hey, we don't need to be as bearish anymore, and we'll point that out live with you. So make sure to have those notifications on so you can join our live videos. We do a lot of morning streams, and then I take a lunch, and then usually I come back for the closing stream these days. So if you wanted to learn anything that how I trade markets like this, especially one that's behaving a lot like a bear market, it really is. You see volatility going nuts. It's behaving like a bear market in this pullback. even though we're not seeing these bigger drops, which we really should be seeing because volatility is higher. If you want to learn that type of stuff, there's a technical analysis course down in the description for $100. It's 90% off because of what is going on right now. I'm leaving it at 90% off. That sale is going to go away at the end of August. My birthday is August 22nd, and I have some fun plays going for August 23rd just to give myself a birthday present in case AMC or GME pop off. But for the most part, what we're doing here is trying to make good decisions, trying to make good trades. And that is something that you can really learn how to do by taking that course down in the description and learn how to trade around those weekly ranges and things like that. It will really help you out in a market like this one. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope that after this video, you just go do something fun. I really do. I try to say that every single Friday at the end of stream. I really try to say, I know people like stocks and we like to talk about stocks here, and I love talking about it with you guys. But at the end of the day, what's important is making sure you spend time with friends and family and making sure you do some nice things for yourself. Go eat a good meal and cook yourself a good meal. Go play some basketball, go have some fun, hang out with friends, have a drink, do whatever you got to do to really relax, and then come back on Sunday night for that update on the shorter time frame so we can go into Monday with a nice fresh start. And I think that's very good for some people to hear today, as we could see a crazy market continue throughout the month of August. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of the video. Really appreciate it. I hope you guys have nothing but a great weekend this weekend, and I hope you have nothing but luck in your next trade. All right, peace.